Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan B. Butler, and this time we take a look at something from the Clone Wars. You'll find here that in these recent videos, I have this table next to me here. I explained in a previous video that basically it's because I finally cleaned out enough stuff in my office and got some tubs moved with some stuff in it and rearranged my storage, so I can finally have some tables in here to do some gaming at night when my son is asleep. And really, it's a pain in the ass to go through and put those tables away every single time I'm going to record. So I'm trying to find some way to integrate this weird thing off to the side into the videos. So for the moment, I'm just putting something marginally relevant back there on the table. This video is not at all about that French Clone Wars Blu-ray set with the cool little Yoda Funko Pop. We covered that in a previous episode a long time ago and in a Saga on Home Video. But it is the Clone Wars we're looking at, so kind of fitting, I suppose. The item we're looking at this time actually is something that I initially thought might just be the exact same thing I already had in one case, just maybe without the outer packaging, and it turns out that it wasn't. So this was a nice fortuitous find on eBay. You may recall that one of the things that we have seen previously in this series has been stuff like screeners, and one sort of line of screeners that we have seen, one group of screeners, has been those for the Clone Wars. Now, we have seen some for Clone Wars, that is the micro series without the, but we've seen quite a few for the Clone Wars, one of which was for Season 3. This was the Season 3 screener for the Clone Wars, back when it was on Cartoon Network. And basically, what you had here was a DVD. It was a DVD-R, actually, so relatively limited run to send out, which often happens with screeners. And this particular one had this label on it here. Nothing really says a screener, or even to tell you what is on it, other than the fact that it is Season 3, Secrets Revealed. But what turned out to be on this was 2 full episodes of Season 3, Clone Cadets and ARC Troopers. But that was effectively it. Again, we've seen this in a previous episode. But when I saw something of a similar color scheme that was also a DVD to promote the season show up on eBay, I almost passed it up, thinking it was the same thing that was in this. But instead, I dug this out, took a look at the disc, compared the labels, and no, what I found actually wasn't the same thing. So I was curious what the heck it actually was. I'm not exactly sure where this would have come from, who would have gotten it originally, so I can't actually say what the origins are of this, but there was apparently another promotional DVD to help get people interested in Season 3 on the Cartoon Network, and that was this. So this is the new acquisition here that is the focus this time. So we have Star Wars The Clone Wars, Season 3 promotional DVD, Cartoon Network logo, Lucasfilm logo, DVD, legalese and stuff going around the edge, and of course Yoda there as our only character on the disc itself. And weirdly, whereas the screener is a DVD-R, this is just a regular, reflective, so you can see into infinity there, reflective DVD, right? Just a regular production DVD. So question is, what is on this? Is this something that is worth tracking down if you are into promotional stuff for the Clone Wars, other than just, hey, it's a new thing, I'll track it down? But what about the content on it? And I was actually kind of surprised by the brevity of content, but also the quality of the content on this. So for me, I think it is worthwhile to track down. I wonder if such a thing exists for other seasons that now I need to keep an eye out for. So what's on here is actually about 9 minutes of content, so not a whole lot for a DVD, even for a promotional item here. And there is no menu system at all. Even the screener has a menu system to let you choose which episode you want to watch, but no menu system on the DVD here, this promotional DVD. So you pop this one into your DVD player, and it immediately starts playing a featurette that runs about 4 minutes. It is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, basically sounding like he's about to give a step-by-step guide to how they make an episode of Clone Wars, but not really. He talks about kind of early concept and script, but then goes into how now it is our time to record our lines, our performances for the Clone Wars. And the bulk of this is him basically talking about the recording process for the Clone Wars, with a lot of footage of them actually doing some recording. So as he's talking about this stuff, he does talk a little bit with some specific voice actors just in a quick conversation, very brief with Terrence Carson, who does the voice of Mace Windu, has a chance to talk with Corey Burton, who does the voice of Dooku, and others. And actually, if you've ever seen the Graham Norton clip where Seth MacFarlane jumps between the different voices of Family Guy characters. It's kind of like that to some degree, because Corey Burton jumps between talking as Dooku, talking as Zero the Hutt, and talking as Cad Bane, which is interesting to hear Cad Bane without any modulation to the voice. And there's also a gag moment where he's like, hey, look, it's D. Bradley Baker, who's portraying a clone. And then they've sort of edited the footage so then D. Bradley Baker is now next to D. Bradley Baker and D. Bradley Baker and D. Bradley Baker. It's like several D. Bradley Bakers because he's playing several clones at the moment. But for the most part, rather than those quick little bits where it's about a specific voice actor, most of it instead is some footage just of them recording, which is kind of cool because most of the time when you see footage of recording of Clone Wars dialogue, it's usually just a shot of the voice actor recording, and that's it. Or maybe it's the voice actor recording a line, and then they show the clip of the line actually in an episode, but it's separate. Here, it's a lot of split screens, where you have the voice actor on one side and the character on the other side, and as the voice actor reads the line, you see the scene and the lips matching and everything of the animation that goes with that line. I like that presentation for when they show voice actors and their performances, but it's very rare for some reason for us to get that kind of split screen approach in anything behind the scenes for Star Wars animation. So pretty cool. We get to see performances of lines for the characters of Asajj, Obi-Wan, the narrator, Mace Windu, Cad Bane, Anakin, Ahsoka, Padme, Rex, lots and lots and lots of that. But it's only 4 minutes, so it's very brief. But if you like to see the kind of vocal performance alongside animation of the performance on the screen at the same time, then it is pretty cool to see. My explanation here, I think, just actually ran longer than probably the actual featurette. And then after that, the next thing that plays, whether you click next or just wait for that one to end, what automatically plays is a quick little, very scripted sounding behind the scenes thing from Dave Filoni. He kind of introduced himself, hello, I'm Dave Filoni, blah, 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 and then he talks through the steps of the process of creating an episode of the Clone Wars. It's only 2 minutes and 12 seconds. There is no time to go in depth really with anything. It's more kind of like a summary of the different steps, but it's a lot. It's a brief comment, summary style, a brief summary, for each step in the process, which includes, let's see, story, script, design, modeling, and referring to the model, the actual character model that's in the show as the actual actor, which I'm sure the voice actors be like, I'm sorry, what? Though he calls them actors later. Texturing, rigging. I found the rigging part interesting because they usually don't talk about that too much, where, you know, you're modeling the character, but with it just being a model, it can't move. It's just like a dead model kind of sitting there. You then need the rigging to set up the points that you can manipulate to actually let it do things. I thought that was kind of cool to actually see them focus on that, even if it was only very briefly. The 3D story thing, which is kind of like the animatic type thing, or the unproduced story reels like we saw with Bad Batch before those got made. That kind of thing, or the Utapau arc. Editorial, which is where they then create the episode out of the pieces that they've got there. The voiceover, the final animation that is done overseas, the lighting, the sound design, and the music. So all those parts covered in the span of a quick, basically 130-ish second little featurette there. I love the fact that they touched on parts of the process that usually don't get much attention, but at the same time, not really much to speak of in terms of explanations for each part. It is very, very brief. Lastly, it does have a trailer that plays for Season 3. It was basically just the first trailer that we saw for the series that you can find plenty of places online. Nothing special there. It's just a trailer we've seen before. So you add all that stuff together, about a 1 minute and 40-second-ish trailer, plus the 2:12 plus the 4, you get about an 8 or 9 minute little bit of promotional material here for Season 3. But interesting and fun promotional material, not stuff that I recall having seen before, though I'm sure it existed online. I'm sure you could probably find it online at this point. And that lets me mention a topic I've not really taken the time to mention in other previous videos, but might as well here. Every time I show something that maybe is a promotional thing or something that is kind of out of print or not something readily available a lot, I will always have somebody pop up and say, you know what you should do? You should rip that entire thing and you should post it online, or you should rip it and post it to, is it MySpleen or whatever? No. Just as I do not tend to collect bootlegs unless I have a bootleg specifically so that I can debunk something as a bootleg, I also not someone who typically wants to perpetuate the creation of bootleg released content online. Now, with this stuff, I'm sure you could look up Season 3 promotional materials on YouTube and probably find all 3 of the bits and pieces of this thing, but I'm not someone who is going to go out of my way to say, you know what? I'm going to create and put something out, essentially as bootleg content myself, because, hey, you just can't find it easily at this point. That is not my thing. That's somewhat antithetical to what I do and the mindset that I have as a collector. So before anyone asks, because someone probably will again, no, I will not be ripping this and putting it online or anything like that. Again, it's just little promotional bits. I want to describe the item to those who watch this show so you kind of know what it is in case you want to try to hunt down a copy for yourself. Now you know what it is. Now you've seen what it is. Now you can make that call as to whether you want to hunt it down for your Star Wars home video library. I'm glad I picked it up. It was kind of a mystery type piece, but I was like, well, if it's not the same thing as this, it must be something else somehow. And I am glad that I picked it up, even though, boy, that's not very much content on the thing. But just for these side-by-sides of the animation versus the voice performance alone, I'm glad I picked it up because that is something that I dearly love when it comes to behind-the-scenes stuff for animated series. Your mileage will certainly vary. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.